My name is Pam Harlan, and I am the Executive Director of the Meemic Foundation. Now, the Meemic Foundation is so passionate about supporting educators in our schools. And guess what? We're just as passionate about fighting against bullying that we all are here, that we're all engaged in. You know, sometimes it feels that you're like the only person that cares about this. And of course, we know that that's not true. But that is why this panel of teachers, of educators, that's why this panel discussion is so important. I just want to clarify one point. You will not be hearing from bully experts today. You'll hear directly from educators like you. They have the same concerns and challenges that you do. We hope, though, that by all of us talking and vocalizing about what we're seeing in our schools, in our classrooms, that we can move closer to addressing this problem. So you don't hear me. Let's go ahead and get started. And so as Kevin indicated, please be sure to share your questions, your comments in the chat. We'll do our best to address as much as we can now. But if not, I would think that perhaps if you check out a future podcast, we'll probably address it there. Shameless plug, right? So anyway, I'll go ahead and get started. I want to begin by asking each of our Michigan Regional Teachers of the Year who are making up our panel discussions today to introduce themselves. And we'll go in region order, and we'll start with Region 1.
Good morning. My name is Nanette Hansen. I'm the Michigan Teacher of the Year for 2022-23 and also the Region 1 toy. And I live in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan. I teach in Escanaba. I teach first grade. And that's a little bit about me.
Thank you so much. So Region 2.
Hi, I'm Kathy Lambries. I am from Region 2. I teach in Roscommon at the middle school. I am a 5-8 instructional coach.
Excellent. Thank you. I think we have Region 4 here today.
Yes, my name is Dawn Perez from Swan Valley High School. I'm Region 4 RTOY. I teach business computers and it's career technical education in our finance and BMA programs.
Wonderful. Region 5.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Karen Slino, and I teach at Flushing High School, which is just west of Flint. And I am a high school math teacher, so everything from consumer math up to AP calculus. Happy to be here today, Pam.
And happy for you to be here. Yay. Let's go right to Region 6 then.
Good morning. My name is Ashley Lohr. I am in the Grand Ledge Public School System, which is just on the west side of Lansing, and I teach kindergarten through 4th grade elementary music education.
Thank you so much. We'll jump to Region 8.
Hello, I'm Stacy Trozen. I teach in Pinckney Community High School, which is just outside of Ann Arbor, and I am a high school science teacher. Thank you for having us.
Excellent. And it looks like Region 9 is here as well.
Hi, good morning, everybody. Nice to see you. My name is Jennifer Cepedes, and I teach at West Bloomfield High School in social studies. I'm currently teaching AP Government, a genocide course, and a positive psychology course that I started this year.
Excellent. Thank you so much again. Thank you for taking time out of your day to do this. This is wonderful, great, engaging conversation that I know that we're going to have. So again, thank you and welcome. So let's go ahead. We'll just start with a general question, and again, just answer or respond, provide your comments, because we certainly want to hear about what's happening in your classroom, in your area, in your schools. Pretty general question. What does bullying look like in your schools? And what type of bullying are you seeing?
I'll start.
Thanks.
we have a first grade, second grade building, and our incidences of bullying is more like kids being unkind to each other and not knowing how to deal with that sort of situation when kids are being unkind. We have the Leader in Me program in our school, and we've done it for several years now. And so the true incidences of bullying, where it's a repeated happening targeted at one person, has really been cut down. We've really only had about 3 incidences of true bullying where it's like a repeated targeted at one student. Only 3 last year. So the Leader in Me program for our building has really been wonderful for cutting down bullying.
I will
Very-
follow up from, oh, sorry.
Oh, go ahead, please.
I'll follow up with that I'm in the high school. And I asked our administrators and counselors and social workers this week, how much do you deal with bullying? Because many times as a classroom teacher, I don't see the big picture of the school. And they echoed exactly what Nanette just said, is that really there's not a lot of occurrence of actual bullying. It's usually someone is saying something unkind about someone, they're having a bad day, there's that kind of situation happening, and they're labeling it bullying. But we've had a very positive force in our school with the social workers who are starting this program or have started promoting positive school climate. So we have signs in the hallway about respecting yourself, respecting your environment, respecting each other. We have all kinds of competitions for people who follow those guidelines, all kinds of awards that are available. And so every single day, the students are seeing, what does it look like to respect yourself and each other? And it's making a huge difference. So our number of those incidents is also on the decline.
Hi, this is Jennifer. I'd like to comment. I had thought as a classroom teacher for high school, I hadn't really seen it. So I thought I'm going to survey my students. So I had 177 who responded back to me. We talked about it in my classroom this week. I told them I was going to be joining this panel, and I said I taught middle school for 10 years. As a middle school teacher, it was easier for me to spot and take care of in my classroom when it was happening. In high school, I haven't seen it. So I told the students, is this happening? Please fill out the survey. So just wanted to share some of the things that I heard because I wasn't sure what was happening in my school. So I surveyed 9th through 12th graders because I do have mixed grades, and 52% of them have seen bullying at the high school. 67% of them had seen bullying when they were middle school students. And about 17% had experienced bullying themselves, and about 8% thought maybe they had been experiencing it. The kind of bullying that they are witnessing or noticing is verbal. So that surprised me. I thought it was mostly going to be cyberbullying, but 74% who have seen or experienced bullying themselves said it was verbal. And then 48% was cyberbullying, and the rest was written or physical acts, and then others had never seen it. We did talk about the state laws, and half of the students were familiar with the school does have a policy. They were familiar with the policy because teachers have mentioned it. A lot of them have taken classes, or it's been part of their classroom since elementary school. So I'll say they all know it's not something that is tolerated, absolutely not something they're supposed to do, and that is expressed throughout the school through posters and conversations. But unfortunately, it's still happening.
We have a question from Olivia in Chicago that I wanted to share with the group because I think it's very pertinent as we're going through this conversation. She wants to know how many teachers feel their students actually know the definition of bullying versus just general unkind behavior. And do you think that your colleagues know the difference as well?
So I was going to jump on the backs of Karen and Jennifer. I'm also in the high school, and we experience, well, I talked to my students this week as well, and a lot of them said that they do see most bullying is happening online. And I was, because I thought the same thing. Do they really know what bullying is, or are they just looking at, friend groups who are mean to one another, or, a fight with another friend? And they were able to articulate that a lot of the bullying is coming from students taking pictures of other students who might not be fashionable or not have the latest trends, and making fun of that on social media, which to me is more of a definition of bullying than just, it's mean, but more than just being mean-spirited. That truly is bullying, looking at somebody who might not be in the latest trends in fashion and looking down on them. Is that kind of the impression that we have with the definition of bullying, is that it's more of a social status than it is just two people that are, having a fight or having words with one another? And my kids seem to know that. So I thought that was really interesting.
Yeah, for sure, because it certainly may not be front and center as so that it's very evident for us to see. And I think that's part of the struggle, is that a lot of it is more behind the scenes. It's in that we're not aware. And so I think that's a very excellent point to bring up. Does anyone else want to add to any of that? I want to jump to another question.
I'm just going to add, the same thing. I was going to say the cyberbullying too, that was our main concern with the admin, more than what we have here in the building. Tuesday, we just had the whole staff and kids could join in, and we wore shirts that said, "Be kind, stop the bullying." And the kids, we have something called Pay It Forward, that about 20% of our kids are in that group that helps out the community. And that helps. We also have something that we do. We post in the hallways things too. If we see someone being kind, we reward that. So we're supposed to do that like 5 times a week during this week, because it's awareness right now for everybody. And then there's teachers throughout the year that will assign assignments and email us and tell us, if you see someone being kind, let me know, because it's part of their score. It's like our she's like our consumer, I don't know, it's not economics. She's sewing, childcare teacher, and she has them do that. And that's my ad.
No, very good, very good. Questions are definitely coming in, so I do want to address those. One from Brad. Brad wants to know how COVID plus everything that came along with it has impacted the social behavior of your students long-term. Because as Brad states, quote unquote, "I am in Flint and our students are a mess socially." How would you speak to that?
I can talk about that. Elementary music education. I have found that so much of what I have had to do procedurally is anticipate the social interactions that my kids are about to have when they do a dance together, or when they play instruments together, or when they sing a song together. Anticipate what we're about to do and address normal social norms with them as we get into something. So from kindergarten on up, I will demonstrate, I will model to them, okay, we're about to do a dance together. You're going to need a partner. And when you're with your partner, you're not going to stay with them forever. So would you please repeat after me? Hey, partner. And they repeat, hey, partner. How's it going, partner? How's it going, partner? And we do these like building blocks so much more now of these social norms and interactions, and looking at our partners in the eye and having conversations together and saying, hey, thanks for being my partner. Now I'm going to go get a new partner. Bye, partner. And I know it sounds pretty basic, but they need practice with these things, because a lot of them haven't had that, or they've been the only one at home, or it's just been them and siblings. And the way that children interact with their siblings is different from the way that they are expected to interact at school. And so I'll even stop siblings in the hallway and say, hey, I see what you're doing. I know that's your brother, but that is not how we behave here at school. You are in a different environment. You need to do this instead. And it's just, there's so much more educating them from the ground up right now.
I can also jump into that. I brought in a positive psychology course, and one thing that we start our day with is mindfulness and breathing and a meditation. So I found really for all students, this has been extremely beneficial in helping them clear their mind. The thought about taking some deep breaths even before a test at times that they're anxious or facing some sort of anxiety, even walking into the school building and thinking, I'm going to have a good day. So walking in, as soon as your hand goes on that door, you step in, changing your mindset, thinking this, I'm going to have a good day. And that I've noticed has really helped to give kids some tools and practices that they can use, and I encourage them to use it outside of the classroom to help build a positive mindset for themselves.
I think, excuse me, another way to think of this too mathematically, because that is my field, right, is these kids who are, let's say they're 15 years old. So a year and a half of COVID, and we know it's been much more, but let's just say it's a year and a half, that's 10% of their lives. So that would mean like 5 years of my life, I stayed in the house and didn't go anywhere or interact with people. And when we put it in that kind of perspective, that's huge. And it was for them. So I think trying to get into their shoes a little bit sometimes gives us a sense of why we need to give them that grace. They're getting better. Every year I'm seeing improvement, but there's still a lot of struggle with mental health issues and with just not coming to school because they just can't deal with being there. So they do need to be reminded, you know, this is what's appropriate, and it needs to be spelled out really explicitly, more than we ever have before. But I'm glad to say it is improving, but we still have a lot of work to do.
Thank you so much for sharing. I mean, in the comments and questions that we're getting is you can see that this is really impacting and touching a lot of districts. I want to share this one. Eloise in Jackson wants to know and states the following. You all said so much about cyberbullying. My students seem to think there are no consequences if it's done outside of the school. How do you explain to them that there are consequences and that they can be severe?
Well, for certain types of behaviors, depending on what that bullying might look like, there could be legal ramifications if there's hate speech involved. And so in our building, I think we've done a really nice job of making sure we look at all angles when a student is reporting bullying type behavior. And you know, we don't tolerate that. And I think kids think because it's happening off school grounds that it doesn't have any negative consequences for them, but especially depending on what types of words are being said, there could be legal consequences. And I'm not an administrator, but I do know our administration does a nice job of pursuing and trying to get at what is happening with these students who are experiencing this kind of behavior. And just because it's online doesn't mean we can't hold students accountable.
We brought in someone from the Michigan State Police last year to talk to our students about online behaviors and consequences, because we had an incident that brought in, like, students were doing on Snapchat that they actually brought in some teachers, and we had to deal with that here at our school. So she came in and she told them, you know, what some of the consequences were, and that, you know, even if you delete it, you know, we can still find it, and really talk, you know, to each grade level separately. And that was really helpful for someone of that level to come in and speak to our students. You know, they weren't just hearing it from us, they were hearing it, you know, from someone in law enforcement. And we've also had a whole assembly with the police and the prosecutor's office about it at another time too. And that was very helpful.
Very good. That will lead me to, I want to do just a quick poll and then I'll let you jump in. So just by a show of hands, and this goes to a question that Marion and Clausen wanted to know. What schools and school districts that you guys represent have actual anti-bullying programs in your schools? I know we've heard a couple of them. Can you just raise your hand if your school has actually have an anti-bullying program in their schools? Well, and I think even, okay, and then also raise your hand, does your school have a anti-bullying policy? Okay, and then is that policy readily available, posted on the school website or someplace in the school? Raise your hand. Okay, very good. I appreciate that. Now, I'm sorry, Dawn, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to add to it because we had an incident happen too, and it was outside school. And our admin was pretty quick and was able to nip that in the bud, but there was some legal afterwards. And now since then, our principal in his notes, he always does a notes every week, and he sends out things to the parents, staff, and students every week. And he has blurbs in there saying the ratifications of things that could happen if you're not nice on cybersecurity, even outside school. And it's there. It's been there since school started this year because it happened last year.
Oh, wow. Okay, thanks.
Mm-hmm.
Now, here's another question, and this is very timely, so, or comment. So, and give me a minute here because it's pretty long that I'm going to read. This is from Allison in Louisville, who wants to know, for those that teach students in the age group where they are influenced by the media and celebrities, right? How do you balance their admiration with certain stars versus what they say? For example, my students love Kanye West, right? But now I have a handful talking about how Jews need to go, and that's disheartening. I do not want to trash their celebrities, but by age group, I know they have access to social media, influencers, exactly. But how do you approach that? How do you help the students balance that out? That's a tough one.
I think I also teach a genocide course. So the anti-Semitism that's been happening has been horrific. I think these are important conversations to have with our students, to take a look at what is being stated, if possible, go into the history, because I think once they know and understand what the context of what it means, they'll know that this was really inappropriate and wrong and disrespectful post and just is simply spreading more hatred. And to really explain that I don't think we can run away from it because it is hate speech, and to kind of explain why it is wrong to post and to say.
I think too, when people have that platform, they sort of have a social responsibility to be respectful of humans. And piggybacking on what she said, the history is so horrific that they're just, is no room for that hate in our world. And, you know, I teach first grade, I would be having a conversation where they have responsibilities, like we all have responsibilities to be kind. Just because they are XYZ kind of an actress, actor, or in the media does not excuse them from being human beings who are kind and loving. And you know, and I know it doesn't affect my group, but you know, it does start with talking about empathy and kindness and love and respect and all of those things at the very earliest of ages, beginner garden and up. And you're, you know, and then when they're out in the media, they have a responsibility to be better.
You would hope that students are just as aware of the impact that, you know, for what the students celebrate them for being celebrities and, you know, all the benefits that they get, that they're also now seeing the consequences of those actions, that, you know, all the things that they're losing too, so that everyone, there are consequences to your actions. So hopefully the students are as aware of that too, and understand that, as well as, and I think Jennifer, both you and Danette, I mean, speaking to the history and, you know, how horrific this is, that they'll understand and see that full circle, have a understanding of that.
And as you said, Pam, in the case of Ye, those consequences are being broadcast just as loudly as what he said. So it's very clear, you say those kind of things, here's what happens to you no matter who you are.
For sure. This is from Andrew, and Jennifer, this is actually specifically to you, and I think it's to follow up from your last comment. You mentioned that you teach a Holocaust course. So what do you do with the students who deny the existence of the event, the history? How does that play into the larger ideal of fake news that some students seem to fall into these days? Also, solidarity. I teach a similar course in New Jersey.
Well, thank you for your question. That's a really good one. And I have not had a Holocaust denier in my class. It's an elective course and it's a genocide course. So we cover a lot of different genocides. So I don't know if somebody who is denying these genocides would sign up for the course. And I would hope if they did, through all of the evidence, the testimonies, the written documents, that possibly to change their mind. I know there's a lot of deniers out there for pretty much for every genocide. So I guess the answer is I have not come across that yet, but we have looked, just to kind of go back on Ye, Kim Kardashian, who is Armenian, and I'll just kind of combine the two. She had really helped promote recognition of the Armenian genocide. This was years ago. She had an episode where her family went to Yerevan, went to the memorial, and that brought so much positive attention and recognition to the genocide and genocide survivors as a celebrity. So every time she posts something about the Armenian genocide, she is really gaining some recognition. And I wanted to point that out as far as a positive, what social media can do as a celebrity. And now, unfortunately, what's happening on the flip side with the denying. So that role of celebrity can do, it's important. It can do a lot. It can do a lot of good, or it can do a lot of bad.
A very good point. I want to also go back to Kathy, because I think you're the one that brought up about having the Michigan State Police in your school to talk to students. This is from Jackie in Muskegon, who wonder if there was ever a worry about bringing them in to speak to the students. She mentioned she's in Muskegon and there is such fear around police. I worry that bringing them in would be more traumatizing than helpful. So what was your experience with that?
It was good. She didn't come in a uniform. She was dressed just in her normal clothes, and she was really friendly and you know, with the kids, and but she got her point across. Like I said, it was, you know, and she had a nice question answer time with the students in that setting last year. The time before, when we did it all school, we did the whole school at an assembly at the high school, when they talked about, I'm sorry, middle school and high school students, and we didn't include the elementary school students, about the cyberbullying, and they also brought in sending photos and how students could get in trouble, because we had a few students that were sending inappropriate photos, and they needed to explain that this, you know, you can't do that, and what the ramifications of that would be. We had officers there, and no one seemed to, you know, no students seemed to have an issue with it. You know, they were just there, like, directing the assembly. We have an officer, we have a part of our school is CTE, and we have like an officer or police training program here. So having people coming into our building isn't anything that they don't see regularly here at our middle school. But we didn't have any kids have any adverse effects from having them come in.
I think it's great, Kathy, that your school did that. I really want to say something to my admins. And the reason I'm pointing it out, because we need to make sure that kids know policemen and women are people too. And they shouldn't be afraid. They're just doing their job, good or bad. And the kids, I think it's great, because that even if they're in their uniforms, that they need to get used to, that's a friendly face. I mean, I know there's bad media out there right now, but I really, and I try to, I really try to tell the kids, we have a COC program too. And we have several of our kids in that program, but the kids need to start seeing them as not as a bad thing to look at or to be scared of or to back up, because they're there to help us. They're in our community, and it's just their job. They're human just like us. My point on that.
Good point that it was too. Thank you so much. So I want to go back to, I know I did the quick poll in with regards to the anti-bullying policy and whatnot. So I know you said that you have programs in your school. Sounds like that they are, well, I shouldn't make the assumption, but the anti-bullying policy, I guess I want to go back to that first. So that policy that you have, that you said that's posted on the website or in the school, is there a time or a place where that you are the schools are actively talking about that policy, not just to the students as well as to the administrators, but also to the parents too? I mean, how is that vocalized across the entire community of teachers, students, and parents?
We send it home in our handbook. It's on a page in our handbook. And we go over the policy. And because I said we use the Leader in Me, and we use that platform as an ability to talk about what bullying actually is and define it even with our youngest kids, so that they know what the kind of behavior that we're looking for. And then when conferences come around, which are coming next week, we revisit the bullying policy with our parents again. And then we have a family night, and it's talked about on the family night. So we're kind of spiraling that, keeping it at the forefront, that we're talking about it, that we want our kids to learn about it, that every, all the stakeholders know what it is, how to define it, what it looks like, etc. And that it's not just in the handbook and then that's never talked about again.
I love that you said that, keeping it in the forefront. I think that's the key right there, that it's not just a checklist item that,
Right.
It's shared, check. Now we'll see it again next year.
Right.
So I love that you're talking that it
Yep.
is consistently being shared and communicated. That's great. Well, we certainly got more questions, so don't get too comfortable there. So we have, Mary, who is from the UP. So woohoo, Nanette. I would love to know what is one thing you have learned in this Teacher of the Year journey that has impacted you, maybe something that has surprised you.
Could you say that one more time?
Yeah, most certainly. I would love to know what is one thing you have learned in this Teacher of the Year journey that has impacted you, maybe something that surprised you.
Well, the whole journey is very wonderful. And there is a lot to learn in this role as MTOY. But the thing that I'm noticing the most for me being from the Upper Peninsula is the difference in diversity and the depth of diversity that we lack in the UP. And so I want to gather some more information from my colleagues downstate and bring some of that back up to the UP. You know, we were talking about Kathy is a coach. We don't have hardly any coaching in our district. We don't have any in our district. I don't know how much goes on in the UP. And so those are some of the conversations that I've been having with my colleagues downstate that I would like to see transferred up here to our students so that we're getting the same equitable education opportunities that are given downstate.
Very good. Okay, I was going back to see because I know I missed some questions. Jeffrey in Southfield wants to know if you teach in a diverse area, have you seen an increase personally in more targeted, unkind, or bullying behavior towards others who are in the who are in the minority more now than you did 3 years ago? So anyone here in a diverse area? No, but not all of our regions are represented today. That could probably address that even
I know
more.
Carl, he's the other toy, has mentioned in our meetings together that this year he's seen a huge impact and an increase in bullying in his area, in his school district specifically, and he talks about it a lot. And he has a diverse community, so he has seen it. He sees the impact from COVID. He's seeing more in his district.
I am in a diverse community in West Bloomfield, and in pulling the students, and again, I was surprised by the amount that was verbal, and I think the second again was cyberbullying, and I think the verbal is just kind of said quietly or in hallway passing, so staff may not hear it. And a lot of them did say some of the students don't realize that they are being targets. So sometimes it's taking a picture, and this surprised me. But this, as far as the diversity, because it's so diverse, I don't know if there's necessarily one. I don't think there's a certain group that's being targeted. What may happen is somebody may take a picture or maybe talking about a student in a class, and that student doesn't know that things are being said about them. So it's, I think, a different kind of bullying that I was not expecting to hear, that they may hear students laughing or snickering, but they don't know that it's them.
It's interesting you say that, Jennifer, because I became more aware of the this bullying. I guess it falls in the category of cyberbullying, but where it's pictures that are being taken and shared, and unflattering pictures or whatnot. And when I first heard about this, just within the last week and a half, I've seen 2 or 3 stories since then. I think there was something even most recently that I saw that was being shared of, again, videos or whatnot, again, that are being shared in these platforms, other platforms. as we get more sophisticated in everything, it seems that even in bullying, they're becoming more sophisticated to where it's like you have to be more aware. You're watching the kids that are in the corners that are giggling and laughing, and you almost have to investigate. You can't just assume what they may or may not be doing. So it is very disheartening to see this type of development, for sure. Here's a question here. And I'm not sure if Chrisma in Detroit wants to know if you have ever, any of you have ever get to visit each other's districts and personally experience different populations, kind of like an exchange exchange program. So maybe, and if you're not visiting the districts, maybe you can just share even the meetings that you guys are now into, where you are sharing information that way.
I am visiting the districts. My goal is to visit everybody. I've been to a few, and I have a couple scheduled for next month. I'm going to go see Carl, and I'm going to go to Jackson, Michigan, and see some of the CTE programs that they have going on down there in some elementary schools. And throughout the year, I'm going to try to hit everybody. And I definitely want to open my lens so that I can see diversity downstate, because we just lacked the diversity in the UP. And so I wanted to be able to see what's going on downstate and experience it for myself.
Latonia in Minneapolis, she says hi. She says, where we are still living with the death of George Floyd in the events after. And she was wondering, and some of this we've spoken to, but I want to make sure I read her question. Are your schools more racially, ethically, religiously diverse, or more homogeneous? Do you think this impacts your in-school bullying or conflicts among the students? We see more in more diverse schools, less in the less diverse.
I'm not in a very diverse community, but we do have some students that represent different ethnicities. And I will say that the majority of those students at some point in their school career with us have experienced some sort of racial slur or some sort of not necessarily intimidation, but just not very kind things. And it's very unfortunate. It does bother me. And it's one of those things where it happens and you don't necessarily know it's happening unless you talk with students. And unfortunately, a lot of our students who are experiencing that, they just write it off as, well, this is just how it is. And that's something personally that I would like to see change within our building. And I think that we're moving in that direction. I see less and less of it, but it's still a concern.
Ours is the same way. We have, we're in a rural area here in Roscommon. And we have very few students that are diverse, but they also experienced people harassing them and saying things. And I was fortunate that they told me, the girls that I had in my class last year, and, we were able to go then to the admin and let them know. And one of their mothers was very vocal about it. So I was really happy about that, because she was not going to let it go. And I was like, you take it as far as, you want, to keep going with that, because these boys are, totally in the wrong. So, and something needs to be done about it. since this group they were 7th graders, they've moved to the high school now, they're in 8th grade. We don't have that with their current we have 5 through 7 in my building. I haven't noticed that now. It was just seemed to be that group of 7th graders, but definitely something needs to be put in place for stuff like that.
Carla has a couple of questions here. One's just, why do you think, just your opinion here, why do you think there's such a rise in hate and bigotry? And then her second question, I'll go ahead and ask that as well. Do people accuse you, accuse your work of being CRT, critical race theory?
I can talk about this a little bit. So my district, I'd say is fairly diverse. My school of all the 4 elementary schools that we have in our district is extremely diverse. There are 16 different languages spoken here. And it's a very diverse population. And I think a lot of the issues that arise are actually coming a lot from the grownups in these kids' lives. And even when it comes to like a lot of the combating board meetings and stuff like that, we hear about it. It's also on the news. CRT has been a thing here. Like I know it has been in many districts, a topic of conversation across the way, especially at the school board meetings. And I think really a lot of it comes from inexperience from a lot of grownups who don't truly understand or know what's going on and kind of jump into making assumptions about things when they aren't fully informed as to the reality of what's actually going on in school districts. And I think that has kind of bred this animosity amongst grownups and then trickles down into some of the kids within school districts as well. And I think that there isn't necessarily an easy solution to it all, but I think it really comes down to keeping the community informed and having those conversations at those levels and continuing to talk through the reality of our situations.
You know, and that was going to be my follow-up too, was that, so how do we, if it is the adults, how do we get at the adults then? And so, Ashley, you're saying, you know, keeping the community and informed, involved, I think is that step. So, so that's great. Is there any other action steps or even more that we can speak to that? Because I think that's a really relevant point of, you know, again, this is the community conversation on bullying. So it's not just getting at the students. Even, I mean, and there's the administration too. There's other teachers, you know, all the adults. How do we get that conversation? How do we keep educating everyone in this community about this?
I know that the Michigan Department of Ed is trying to put out some nice talking points to give people factual information so that there's not really the false narrative driving things for people. And especially because if people hear CRT or if they hear this or that, they have in their mind whatever they've been told from someone who might not be knowledgeable. And so even at our Michigan Department of Ed is really trying to get those talking points out to different district superintendents and so that it can be brought to teachers so that they can disseminate the facts of, you know, CRT, the facts of what everything is, so that people aren't just getting pieces of, you know, buzzwords and then they make up their mind about what it really is. So, you know, there's that as well.
I also think it's really important that we go back to the art of empathy and listening and discussion with social media. It's very easy to blast your opinion out there without the opportunity to create dialogue with others. Just because you don't agree with someone doesn't necessarily mean that you're right, they're wrong. You know, everybody has their particular view on something, and it's important for everybody to understand when you're in those conversations, what is that viewpoint? Why do you have that viewpoint? And, let's make sure that we have some common ground that we can work off of. It's just going back to just discussion and listening and empathy.
I wanted to point out in West Bloomfield School District, I've been really fortunate. Those conversations, as far as I'm aware, have not come up. And I have taught a cultural studies of gender course, which is another elective, which it was incredible for the students to have. I just wrote a proposal to add African American AP studies into the curriculum as well. We do have an African American history course at the school currently. And I think these are courses the students really are passionate about, they want. And I think it's important for, for parents to understand this is all part of learning. They're learning how to live with empathy, live with compassion in the world. And these courses are so important, so we don't have, on the flip side, the discrimination and the anti-Semitism that we're also reading about. Want to hear more of the positive stories and the good things that our kids are learning while they are while they're in our classrooms.
Janai wants to know, is DEL seen as a group negative in your districts?
No, right. We are doing a lot with DEIA, and we our current superintendent, who just became superintendent, he was our curriculum director prior, and he was at the forefront of pushing through some positive initiatives. So in our district, it's not a negative thing at all. It's a positive, forward-thinking mindset.
Very good. Well, I want to, as we're getting close to, we still have a few minutes, but I do want to give each of you time to kind of give a final statement. And then there's a couple of just general comments I want to read, but before I read those, just give you a chance to maybe celebrate what's the positive, what's the activity that your district is doing that you think is taking that step forward, that is going to help us in this change, in this conversation, in this fight against bullying. And I just want to give you a chance to kind of celebrate the good that's happening in your district and what's going on, and the takeaway that all these wonderful educators that are listening to you today, that they can take with them. So, and I think we'll, if you're okay, we'll just go in region order again. So sorry, Nanette.
Great.
We'll start with you.
I was ready to talk. I was ready to talk anyway.
Okay.
We're a Leader in Me Lighthouse School at our kindergarten, kindergarten, first grade and second grade. We adopted this program a few years ago, and we implemented this school-wide positive behavior supports that gives kids SEL tools to navigate their big emotions. And so if somebody hurts their feelings, they don't instantly retaliate. They have these tools in their toolbox to cool down. And we painted our almost our entire school full of murals that reflect the positive language that's in Leader in Me. It's always a topic of discussion when we're going down the hall about what it means to be proactive and empathetic and all of these things. And so we've made it a school-wide support. Actually, we've made it like through 3 buildings support, and we have seen a very big decline in actual bullying, and we've seen a nice uptick in empathy and kindness and loving behavior in our kids. And I just think Leader in Me has been such a wonderful program for our district.
Thank you so much, Nanette. Okay, Kathy, region 2.
We have a character traits program that we use called True Success. And we use that K7, and that's been really helpful in teaching, responsibility, respect, integrity. It's a new character trait every month. This year, we have also incorporated zones of regulation to help our students identify, how they're feeling each day and what they can do to regulate themselves. We are also really focused on creating a culture and climate, positive culture and climate for our students, and increasing membership for them. So we're looking at different clubs on Thursday. We picked Thursday mornings for students, we had survey, they got to decide what kind of clubs they were interested in. And then each of us picked one to run to get them, so they had a sense of belonging and ownership in our school. So we're just constantly working on developing that climate to create that space that students feel safe and a place that they want to be.
Thanks, Kathy. Dawn, Region 4.
Yes, our school, I mentioned the Pay It Forward, a lot of our students are in. I've also, every student, I believe anyways, hopefully all my teachers here at our school, we treat them as unique individuals. We do have a little bit of diversity here with, we used to be mainly all a white school, and we've had some school changes. And so now we've got some diversity in here in the last 3 to 4 years, more than normal. And we feel, I do too, we try to create a safe environment with everything going on in Michigan, with some of the things with the shootings and stuff. I should just say it out. We have really promoted that with our students. Everyone's unique. And we try to nip it in the bud as teachers. If something is going on, we do referrals to get, because SEL too, we have to teach to that. And I know we do the posters. Each of us as staff have little things that we help to make things nice. Like in my classroom, kids know you can't say something nice, don't say it at all. And we promote different things like that in our room, and we talk about it as a staff. And we do have a transitions class that's a freshman transitions that we go over, and they have people come in and talk to them about bullying and what it is. And so all our freshmen get that, and they also in that class talk about our student handbook. So that's where they hit it right in the beginning. And I know as seniors going out, we have something called it's our senior class that they do a lot of bringing people from the public in to get them ready for where they're going, the workforce. So there's a lot of online cyberbullying, different things they do. So freshmen and seniors, we have hit hard in the last 3 years on making sure they're being nice.
Thanks, Dawn.
Yes.
We have Karen in Region 5.
So when I think about what my teaching life was like when I was a new teacher, I think the focus then was on the bad. Something happened, you send them to the office or you discipline in some way. And that's what we did. And it was just expected that students knew what that appropriate behavior was, that we didn't need to spell it out. You should just know, right? So when I look at what we have now, it's just a complete 180. And I'm so glad to see that, because when you walk in our school, as in my colleagues' schools as well, you see those signs hanging: respect yourself, respect each other, respect the environment. Every Wednesday, teachers are wearing shirts that say those things, and on the back say, build each other up. And students are getting rewarded for doing those good things, for helping someone pick up a notebook they dropped on the floor, or for just saying something kind. So we're much more focusing on the positive and really rewarding that and being very verbal and deliberate about that. That's not to say the negative isn't happening. It is, but we're hoping that that positive will kind of shove out the negative, because it's being delineated and it's also being rewarded in a very big, visible way. So I'm so glad to see how things are now. And yes, there are issues we will deal with, but I think as we get further and further from the pandemic years, things will improve, and we're all making this big effort to make that happen.
Thank you, Karen. Ashley in Region 6.
Yeah, so I just want to talk about a personal one really quickly. And this is because of COVID. So during COVID, we were not doing performances. During the shutdown, I taught online for over a year. And so holidays came around, and I was talking with my other elementary music colleagues about what we could do. So we put together a sing-along, and we were talking about all the different holidays that we could represent. And I have a fairly significant population of Indian students, some of which I was actually teaching while they were quarantining in India at the time. Online. And so I said, what about Diwali? What are some songs that you all have done in the past? And they said, none. So I did some research and spoke with a friend who wrote a song for Diwali, and we started incorporating that into our sing-along structure as another way to tap into this heritage. And it has since become a staple as part of what I teach every year. And so this past week was Diwali, and I brought up that song, and the moment the kids see it on the screen ready to sing it, if they've sung it before, they cheer and they celebrate. And so again, I think it really, so much of it comes back to anticipating what's going on or what we think might be happening in our schools, addressing it from an educational standpoint, and looking how we can positively impact our communities and thereby our world.
Thank you so much, Ashley. Stacy, Region 8.
So we've been implementing an advisory or a seminar program for a few years now. And after COVID, the couple of years following COVID, we decided it was really important for our students to ramp this up into something pretty robust. And the goal of our seminar program is for each student in our building to know at least one adult very, very well, and vice versa. Each adult knowing at least one student well, having that point person or someone that they feel comfortable with, and they know that person is going to be there for them. I've seen some personal success with that, where I've had students in seminar come to me even after and just share with me how they're doing, because we built that relationship. And I guess the one thing that I would want to say or want to really mention is that the relationship piece between your colleagues, between your administration, between your students is super, super important. Not much can get done if you don't have positive relationships. Students will tend to want to behave. They'll want to do well. They want to be positive if they know you and they respect you and they feel comfortable with you. So relationship piece is huge for me.
Thank you so much. And then last but not least, Jennifer, Region 9.
I just wanted to thank all the teachers who are listening to our conversation today. Our district has really started doing some things from K through 12 with the Capturing Kids' Hearts and also the Leader in Me. We also started an advisory this year, same as Stacy's had mentioned in her school, to help each student have an adult who they can go to. And for the schools that maybe don't have advisory, speaking to like what can you do in your own classroom, as I think is important. By me just putting out that bullying survey to all my students this week, it opened up a lot of conversation. And I would say, you know, do what you can with your kids in your classroom as their teacher, in building positive relationships and having some of those difficult conversations that they may not get with other teachers or other adults throughout the school, and they will respect you and they'll love you for it, because they have a lot to say and they need a good listener, which all of the teachers I'm sure here are wonderful with in their classrooms.
Thank you. Thank you so much. This was great. I'm going to wrap it up with a comment from Kevin in Jacksonville, Mississippi, because I think this is it great. Teachers of the decade. That's what you guys are. You are awesome. And Kevin wants to thank you for staying when so many left. Thank you guys so much. Wonderful, wonderful discussion. We'll keep it going. We have to. This is an important fight. Kevin, I know I'm over by a few minutes, and my apologies for that, but I'll turn it right back over to you.
No apologies needed. It was great to listen to all of you. And as someone who does the work that I do, it is empowering, inspiring to hear from people in the trenches who are doing the work, and it reaffirms that the work is actually getting done. So saying that you have policies, saying that how you are interacting with your students, what you're looking out for, all of that to me is very heartening, because it counters those who may not be doing it as well as you are. So that's why we do this conversation, is to bring you to the forefront, to tell everybody else that this can be done and things are better because you are doing it. So from me, Meemic, Defeat the Label, we thank all of you very, very much at this point.